YouTube right now. So I think we're in. Okay, Carl, are you ready?
Yes.
You're live.
Good afternoon. Wave your grace. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. I said in this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. You make this parade a mere charade if you're marching just for fun. Our troops must feel your thanks for real before the marching is done. They know side by side you can match their stride to the drum beat and the brass, but they're not impressed with you unless you can match their stride in class. This may not sound too diplomatic, but I cannot be more emphatic when I tell you it's problematic when you do less than your best, especially when it's because you put your brilliance on pause for the mere peer applause it draws from a so-called friend doing less. Quit playing. I'm saying we know that you are great, and you know it, so show it. Don't make our heroes wait. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. Now, for those of you who already do the things that make us proud, your nation in appreciation says thanks to you out loud. Your schoolmates should imitate the way you tap your potential. Let me try to convince them why their effort is essential. Our men and women in uniform before, during, and after Desert Storm always perform above the norm everywhere and anywhere on the planet. Your peers should follow our heroes' lead, but they cannot follow it, they cannot read. Allow me, please, to plant this seed. Don't take freedom for granted. I'm serious. I'm furious to see U.S. schools behind. No excuses. All we got to do is just make up our minds. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. We believe in you, warriors, protect you too. Do what you must to rise. So please do your part and please start before another warrior dies. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. They sacrifice for you. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. Please. That is the theme song for Wave Your Grades, American students striving for excellence in honor of our troops. The Wave Your Grades program dedicated to veterans, troops, and those who support their service with excellence. Today, this is a Saturday, April 23rd, one of the most important programs dedicated to those who serve and students we have had and probably will have, because we are honored this afternoon to have Anthony J. Butler, known by many locally and beyond for Violence I Present. I present Anthony J. Butler with Violence I Prevent. I want to make sure that I get that right. And this is what we have asked Brother Louis George Walker, our producer, engineer, and founder of KUAW.org. Brother Butler is going to give us a slide before the formal introduction, and he will allow us to look at some stats. And just looking at them will help you to understand why this is our most important program to date. Brother Anthony J. Butler, if you will, please.
Yes, sir. And so I'll just say good afternoon to everyone. And as you can see from the slides, connect the dots. Connect the dots. Here we are in the great Midwest, the state of Missouri. 3 of our cities routinely make the top 20 most dangerous cities in America: St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield. And I'm not going to go through line by line all of these different points on this particular slide, but it's worthy to dissect it and analyze it as we jump into our conversation. I just thank you so much, Mr. Boyd. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for the opportunity to share this afternoon. But it's just when we connect the dots, we know some things going in. And we just look every year since 2017, there will be approximately 155 homicides in Kansas City, Missouri. There will be roughly 500 to 600 individuals who will be shot, and they will survive. Non-fatal shootings will occur. We know the zip codes that these will occur. We know the general demographics in general. About 70% of them will be Black males. We know the age bracket. So as you go through those slides, there's certain things that we know. And I just wanted to have that slide just up there just for reference point so that we can, from a review standpoint, begin to prevent it. So I'll remove the slide if that's okay with you, Mr. Boyd and Mr. Walker.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we good to go.
Thank you very much. And I would suspect, in as much as both Louis George Walker and Anthony J. Butler are a lot more proficient with the technology than I, and if you need to revisit the slide, you gentlemen will know what to do. But I wanted to establish that as I talk about this most important program, before getting into the substance of it, let me ask both of you. First, Mr. Walker, to inform those who are with us as to how they can access KUAW.org and even replay this program later. Then I want to make sure that Anthony J. Butler gives contact information, because you need to be seen and heard in many more places than you are, and you're already being heard in many places. Brother Walker, may we start with you, please?
Okay, yes. This is KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. And you can join us every day, Monday through Friday, and Saturday and Sunday, 365 days of the year. If you go to Facebook, look up KUAW-radio. On YouTube, it's KUAW space radio. And on Twitter, we're KUAW-radio. So you can pick us up on any of those when we do a live show. And then our recorded shows and our audio-only shows can be picked up on iTunes Radio, Get Me Radio, the TuneIn app, MyTuner, and online radio box. If you have a smart speaker like a Google or Amazon Home speaker, just tell it to play KUAW Radio. And it'll come over. Tell Siri, tell whoever that they can come listen to KUAW Radio. And be sure and like this video and share with your friends. Also on YouTube, we want you to subscribe to KUAW Radio. That way you'll be notified whenever we come up with live broadcasts. And they're always educational, informative, and needed in our community type of videos that we do. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Louis George Walker, so very, very much. Founder of KUAW.org. KUAW stands for Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, emanating from the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center in Kansas City, Missouri. And now, Brother Anthony J. Butler, with the utmost of patience, has indulged my attempting to memorize the theme song and letting Brother Walker help us to understand how we can ongoing access KUAW.org now in a more informative way before you give us the contact information. I know Anthony J. Butler from your work with students, your work with schools, founding Violence I Prevent. I know your sister, who is a renowned educator in the Kansas City, Missouri. That is not hyperbole. I mean that sincerely. And now, if you would introduce Anthony J. Butler in a way that our young high school and middle school students would understand and with which educators can identify.
Yes, sir. I'll say this one never made the horrendous headlines because someone like you helped to change my mind. And when I say someone like you, I want to thank Mr. Carl Boyd, because when I was in high school, I used to listen to Generation Rap. And the great things that were on that show actually planted seeds in myself and other teens in that particular era to be able to say that we have a great person in our city and beyond who was dropping knowledge and inviting teens on the show. And to the high school students, the middle school students, to the educators, when I said this one never made the horrendous headlines because someone like you helped to change my mind, prevention. Prevention doesn't make the headlines. I'll say it twice. Prevention. When violence is stopped or thwarted, it doesn't make the headlines.
Thank you.
And so, yes, sir. Every single time that I get the opportunity to speak with a group of students, to speak with educators, to speak with parents, do the work through the Violence I Prevent movement, the VIP movement, I always tell them that many times the things that people have done in my life and what I'm doing in other people's lives, it will stop violence so you won't hear about it. And so many times under the radar, it doesn't make the headlines, but we are helping people manage their anger before it manifests into a murder. We're helping people make great decisions before it develops into disasters. We're helping people get great conflict resolution skills so that they can keep their core, cool, calm, and collective presence in the midst of a crisis. So that's what I do.
Let me indicate to you that there is such genius in what you say. The first thing I want to do is say thank you for the kind remarks. And my blessing has been because of having that audience that I did, is in the people I have been privileged to meet. So it was never called the Carl Boyd Show, but it was about those who were kind enough to come on. But let me tell you what I mean when I say genius. Breaking news. When we hear those two words, how many among us are waiting for somebody to say, breaking news, this person decided not to commit a crime today? Right. It does not happen. So that you were kind enough to share a slide with us that helps us, I pray, to appreciate how dangerous things can be. But Anthony J. Butler is responsible for the slide that we don't have. This many insults were prevented.
Yes.
This many altercations went another direction because they decided to talk about it rather than fight about it. We don't get those headlines. One thing we can do now for a certainty is find out the types of presentations you make and certainly how to contact Anthony J. Butler.
Yes, sir. The best way will be through the website, violenceiprevent.com. And if you go to violenceiprevent.com, within the website is my email address, and I'll respond promptly in terms of requests. People sometimes ask questions about how to do this or do that. Sometimes I get parents asking questions of how to better connect with their kids.
Yes.
So violenceiprevent.com, violenceiprevent.com, VIOLENCE, iprevent.com. So violenceiprevent.com, the website. Within the website is my email, and I will respond to requests, and that's the best way to contact me.
I would like to find out from Anthony Butler how it was that you made a determination, not just to think of this as a good idea, but to dedicate it as God's mission, as it were. Let me put it in context. There are many good to great organizations in the greater Kansas City area.
Yes, sir.
Who talk about crimes after they happen, rehabilitating the incarcerated, addressing police community relations. There are any number of these kinds of organizations that are doing something fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
How did you, Brother Butler, make the determination that even though you get less headlines for it, you were going to go into prevention?
Well, I'll say this, it's rooted in my personality in terms of my very name, and I didn't know this when I was in high school, I didn't know it till later, but Anthony means peace and worthy of praise.
Wow.
And so when I found that out, I was like, okay, I just would love to keep living up to my name. I always fashioned myself to be peaceful.
Yes.
I prevention, because on the front end, it saves so much time, energy, resources. On the back end, if we can stop it before we begin to invest millions upon millions of dollars into something in terms of dealing with the issue, I always, when I go into schools and I speak, I say from 3 to 103. I mean, preschool on up. It just, I got that age range. But the prevention mode, Mr. Boyd, is something I selected because I thought about if we could rewind the tape. Many times when we watch a movie and we go back and we get to that moment, or using a sports analogy, when you back it up and you can see the play unfold, and then you say to yourself, I wonder if we would have did this right here, that would have had a ripple impact on what would have happened next, and so forth and so on. So it stops it before it starts. And I pick prevention because it saves lives, it builds families, it causes legacies to be stronger because you stopped it before that traumatic avalanche gets going in motion and draws more people into a negative way.
Anthony J. Butler, as we all have this week, has heard about the young Guzman tragedy.
Yes.
A few years ago, after a basketball game at a local high school, two females, after an altercation, one indeed shot the other.
Mm-hmm.
When you showed the slide, and we're talking about demographics and who is impacted, what is Anthony J. Butler feeling when you see these kinds of headlines, and how can we help you do what you do?
Well, my heart goes out to the families for their loss, and I'll just say the trauma, even if sometimes they don't necessarily lose a life, but to live with some sort of injury or that particular traumatic experience where the emotions seep in and the triggers, my heart goes out. I pray often. And what I attempt to do more than anything else when I'm feeling that, to be able to jump in, is to say, this one could have been prevented. I say that internally to myself often. This one could have been prevented. When we talk about senseless violence, that's what I do, and I do something about it.
Let me find out from you, Brother Butler, what others of us can do to help you do what you do.
Thank you for that. And I was like, I think I didn't answer the question fully. I was thinking to myself, Mr. Boyd, I'll say the best way that others can come alongside and help me out is to be able to take, for example, this conversation and in a private space with your inner circle, with the people in your family, your friends, your small group, so to speak. First, take it individually first. Violence I prevent starts with the individual, and make sure that I'm managing my hurt, understanding the impact of managing my anger, understanding my words matter to other people as well, including myself. So internalize it first will be the first thing that would help. And then get into your inner circles of your families, your friends, and begin to, in a sense, share the message of this is what worked for me. And we talk about it often in the church atmosphere, your testimony, sharing your testimony with somebody about how you came out, how you came through, how you are coming out, how you are coming through. I believe that is the greatest way that they can help. And then just take it into the different institutions. I'll say this quickly. When you look at the schools, the churches, the places of faith, and you look at those two realms in our homes, of course, I'll just say those three realms: our homes, our schools, our churches, places of faith, and the communities kind of, captivate all of that and capture it. If we can partner in a sense, and I'm saying this is how you help me, put it in your home, take it to your schools, because the vast majority of children will go to some school, public, private, charter. And then many people will have whatever faith they believe in. They will have a particular faith that you can go. And me being a Christian, the VIP movement was founded, rooted in Genesis 4, the first murder in the Bible, Cain and Abel. And when you unpack that, you'll see rejection, you'll see jealousy, you'll see all of that. So that is how I can say you can help me.
That is fantastic. That just means so much. I was doing something at a couple of schools a few years ago, and I had looked up an author. I wish I could properly attribute it. I don't remember who wrote this, but they had done some research. And we talked about back in the day. Now, Anthony J. Butler, you please understand. Yes, when Louis George Walker and I say back in the day, we're talking about the 60s, not the 80s. So this person had done the research and said, as it relates to influences in the minds of adolescents, there was a point when it was home, school,
yes,
church, peers, media. I was born in 1942. Homeschool, church, peers, media. I was doing my presentations in the 80s. It was peers, media, homeschool, church. So that the influence on young people had changed to the point where media were more persuasive than the church.
Yes.
Some people, and you and I have not discussed this, I don't know the answer to this next question. I have a feeling that there may be some people who are surprised. When Anthony J. Butler does Violence I Prevent and you are talking to adolescents, what is their reaction to what you have to say?
Well, I'll say many of them are very receptive, because I put it in such a way where I use my own life. I use things that resonate with them. I use the platform to sit at their feet often and allow them to educate me in terms of what's going on. And then I take that and it helps me to be even more effective as I reach others. So, this past week when many times when we're talking about telling the youth, get off social media, this and that, and we have conversations, and I said, social media is like money. And I said, it's how we spend it. It's how we use it.
Ooh.
And so I told them to use it in a way to where your influence can actually persuade people to be more peaceful, to your point with the grades, to be more, just more infused with a certain desire to say, I want to have academic excellence. Use your platform to educate people about certain things going on in our community. I said, have fun, absolutely. But I'm saying,
Yes.
do some things in that area. So they are very receptive because I listen and then I put it in a way where they can relate to it, and then they also educate me. I'll say, I didn't know, teach me that. What is that? And why do people say that? Do that. And they respect me because I ask them for insights as well.
That is so important. And please, once again, before I get to the next question for you, give your contact information again.
violenceiprevent.com. The website is violenceiprevent.com. And in the website, you can email me and then I will respond to any request or any type of question you have. Violence, with a C, violenceiprevent.com.
One of the things that occurs to me, because I know you and I know how positive you are, is that some people may be surprised at a particular story or particular stories that cause you to be optimistic about young people. Is there one particular story, a few particular stories that really help you to be optimistic, indeed inspired by some young people?
Well, I'll say there are several, but to capture the things that inspires me the most is when you start seeing yourself in them, when you go speak at a school or go to a church or go to a conference where your audience is Generation Z, and you see them with a hunger in their eyes, looking forward to receiving what you have. And I put myself in that position. So there were several times where, a lot of them had stuff going on at home. There was this particular story, a couple of students at a high school, and they were being cussed out pretty much every single day as their mother dropped them off to school. And at that particular school, I was doing small intervention groups, helping students with anger management, decision making, etc. And so these two students were in my group, our group, I should say, and they were just saying, Mr. Butler, I just can't escape. And many times, as you being a great writer and creative mind you are, it'll turn into a poem. And so these two young ladies, it was like, I just can't escape. I am smothered with insults by my mother, who likes to chase away my faith with routine berates. Like my own mother calls me dumb, stupid, and ugly. She doesn't even hug me, nothing but mugs. These actions hurt. Suffocated with so much damage that manifested into many tears, I feel like dirt. My daddy's missing in action. I'm falling apart like fractions, searching for one whole person who doesn't yell at me, doesn't curse, then I'm falling apart. Flamed by so-called friends, I am the punchline for their jokes, and I try to make the most of each day. But for real, y'all, I'm not doing okay. So when I share that with the students, they immediately, that's me. And then that causes a connection, Mr. Boyd. And then those are the types of stories that I can go on and on about when lives are changed, because I hit them in the heart and they hit me in the heart.
Yes, sir.
Start to do some great work in violence prevention.
Let me tell you, Brother Walker has heard me say, and we share often, young people learn more by example than they do by instruction.
Yes, sir.
And oftentimes they will come back to thank you for something that you might not have thought was the most important part of your presentation, but that was the part that they got.
That's right.
But when I hear you present in the way that you just did, Louis George Walker and I can say that this is for us just a delight to be able to play that back. And that is, by the way, just one of the things that you do, and that was extemporaneously done. Mm-hmm. I know you prepare well, but your response to where they are is extremely important. I know you talk about your faith, and I know you talk now, I know about the name Anthony, but what is it deep inside of you that allows you to even remember their lyrics on an ongoing basis from age 3 to 103?
Yes, sir. Well, I sometimes it just happens. I can't explain it other than there are certain moments where the words that I wrote will just right in the middle of the conversation, they'll come out and be on point with the area that we're dealing with. And it does something for me in terms of thinking about anytime you come into a position of being a servant, I always try to empathize and think when I walk in this room, even though I don't know who just walked through the door, what are they going through?
Wow.
Why should they even care about Anthony Butler speaking? And that's the way I prepare. And then from the overflow of that, I pray and ask God just to give me a word. Give me a word for whoever that needs it. That's what I do. And
yes,
it happens.
Now, while we are on that, let me let those who are with us know that I am privileged to be on Brother Anthony J. Butler's mailing list, so I can avail myself of your presentations.
Yes.
So as there are those who contact you, how can they too get on that list to be able to watch what you do in its full after this program is over?
Yes, it's the website. I mean, once they leave, and if they, unless they say don't send me anything, I will send them videos that I put out from time to time. I think I have about 40 on the YouTube channel, and I'll get more of a stronger presence on other social media platforms in the future. But right now, the YouTube videos, I make them to where individuals can see and learn. And sometimes it's live footage, and other times I might be sitting in the chair just sharing some knowledge. And that's the way to get on the mailing list. And also sending out helpful and going back to the why should you care, from time to time insights. You know, I'm in the schools and I'm telling the students, Mr. Boyd, and I didn't know this, about the 4 types of parenting. And so when you have the authoritarian, the authoritative, the permissive, and the uninvolved parents, I put them in an alliteration of 4 F's. So you have the authoritarian, that's the parent that's feared. I mean, in an unhealthy way, your kids are scared of you. And then you have the uninvolved parent, they give, you know, so much freedom. I mean, the permissive parent gives a lot of freedom. The uninvolved parent is far away. And the greatest form of parenting, and I'm saying this, is the authoritative parent. That's the fair, firm, and fabulous. Because when we start thinking about preventing violence, we look no further than the home. And those who have, in a sense, made a poor choice with violence, when you talk to them one-on-one, they'll start telling you things that went on in their house, and they didn't manage that anger, and they took it out in the community. And many times that cycle is rolling again, because if I had an angry mother, an angry father, or uninvolved, or I felt rejection, I let the overflow of that hurt, mismanaged hurt and pain, which is the underlying reason for many forms of senseless violence. When we don't manage our hurt and pain, we typically have a decision at our feet. And if we don't have the skill set to pause, we react. And if we have a weapon, we use it.
Wow. This is so very, very important. Oh, by the way, let me ask you this question before I get to what you said about parenting. Who is responsible for your production? What you do is very professionally rendered. And is there a production company or people with whom you work?
Well, I had primarily 2 that does the bulk of it. My son, Brandon, did a lot of stuff. Brandon Butler, and then he has a production, Empire One Productions, and then there's a gentleman Michael Murphy that I met actually while serving the school in his particular district with his daughter and son. And I met Michael, and Michael Murphy does a lot of my more recent productions in terms of editing. And so yeah, those two individuals, again, if somebody reached out, I could share their contact with them via email. But they do a lot of the editing, the production, and just great work, great work.
I'd be interested in finding out whether or not you are working formally or informally with organizations. You made me think about positive parenting for prevention. I just made that up because I'm talking to Anthony J. Butler. Do you find that parents reach out to you, and or do you work with organizations?
Yes, it's been over 500 since started VIP, Violence I Prevent movement in 2013, and since 2013, over 500 schools, organizations, colleges, universities, law enforcement, elected officials, pretty much you name it. If it's a good fit, I collaborate. And in particular with the parenting, many times they will reach out based off seeing this interview per se, because they'll just feel safe enough to say, I need some help, because I always have it from the standpoint when we are in the middle of going through, who wants to be embarrassed and humiliated? So I do my best to validate the parents, say, hey, you know what, you're doing what you can do. There are other people who can help you out. How can we serve? And then that opens the door for them to reach out. And some schools bring me in organizations to speak to their set parent meetings, or have a certain series called Intentional Parenting, where I talk about 10 traits of great parents. So that's what I do with the parents.
That is absolutely fantastic. And as you were talking about working with young people just beyond infancy to senior citizens almost my age, when I think about that, at what grade level are you most frequently requested? And I could see you talking to college professors about the way to engage their students who are going into any of the professions that relate to violence. It might be law enforcement, it might be a lawyer coming out, all of those kinds of things. But most frequently, to whom are you speaking?
If I was to say, it's very balanced, Mr. Bory, but there are certain seasons where it will be that 4th through 12th grade bracket. I know it's a big bracket, but it's balanced. A school will say, hey, I got some 4th graders need some help with anger management. And then someone else, I got some 12th graders, they're about to leave the atmosphere, and we're concerned about decision making or impulse decisions or risky behavior. And we know brains are still developing. So I really try to help them at that age bracket to work even harder, because that portion of their brain where they're making decisions, oftentimes we all have more risky behaviors in that particular those teenage to early 20 years. And so I use a lot of research and help them out. But yes, it's kind of balanced, but I'll say 4th through 12th grade will be the optimum window.
Thank you for that. And by the way, Brother Louis George Walker, I hope that you always do feel comfortable to get right in, but sometimes I see you reacting and wonder whether or not you had a question and or a comment at the time.
No, I'm good, Seth. I'm picking up a lot of good information though.
Yes, I'll tell you what, one of the things that occurred to me and why I was asking Brother Anthony J. Butler, a congratulations is due for national recognition for Karen Curls. And Karen Curls at Penn Valley Community College has indeed addressed the area of law enforcement, police community relations, all of those kinds of things. So if someone with that kind of prestige at the higher education level were to ask Brother Butler, can you come in and help our students with how they might approach young people, I suspect that you would have no reluctance or hesitancy whatsoever to teach on that level as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and done it before as well. When we look at policies, let's just take the law enforcement angle, and you'll have young adults, and definitely I didn't know this, but there are some things that when you are being approached, when you are pulled over, you know, some things in terms of staying calm and keeping your hands present and no sudden movements. And if you do have a complaint, you know, respectfully just file it and get more angry after the fact instead of on the spot, you know, and just teaching things like that, or when you're at your home, what to do and what not to do, or when you're on the road, or when you're just out at the grocery store. So yeah, we have great conversation. I collaborate with law enforcement as well, so it's even more powerful when you have some of those who serve in law enforcement, and they can even give more insight, and we're all there having a collaborative win-win type of dialogue dealing with some real issues.
Now, as Brother Walker and I listen and understand that you are a store of information, are you in any format duplicating Anthony J. Butler?
Well, right now I say the duplication is from the individuals taking it. My books will be the greatest way where, and I cannot, you know, be in multiple places right now.
Right.
And I thank God, you know, my wife helps behind the scenes from time to time. Our kids, we have two kids, and they help behind the scenes from time to time with different projects. But in terms of just being out there, it's me. And so I decided to write books to be able to duplicate myself without necessarily being present, and then it can follow up with some consulting or speaking or presentations at the overflow of that. So
wow, how many books?
I have 4 already published, and I have a 5th one that should be out fairly soon. I'll say this particular quarter. My 5th book will be out, but my first one was Fighting Words, a book of poetry. Second one was Root Reasons for Violence, knowing why it happens, learning how to stop it. Third one was Who Canceled Common Sense. And the 4th one was a creative writing workbook called The Write-Away Experience, and it's loaded with life skills that help with decision-making, anger management, conflict resolution, trauma, and we use creative writing as the backdrop to deal with that. So a lot of schools are purchasing that creative writing workbook.
This is so wonderful. And once again, back to your website so that all of this information can be gleaned.
Yes.
Outstanding. And is there anything seasonal about what you do? Do we have to worry, for instance, about the holidays? Do we have to worry about when it gets warmer? What are things that we should be on the alert for?
I think more than anything else, Mr. Boyd, it's just like I was speaking at a school yesterday, and I said it travels with you, so it's all seasons. And there are certain ebbs and flows of when violence typically occurs. But when it comes to, if I have anger issues, that travels with me. So I can go out and try to get a burger, and that can turn into a homicide or shooting or mugging or stabbing, etc. And so when it comes to the seasonal standpoint, say for example, Domestic Violence Month is in October, Teen Dating Violence Month is in February. So when I reach out to people who will do more in those particular months, I say I do it that month and beyond. Or, you know, April is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and it's also National Poetry Month. And so I mix poetry with that in terms of that type of dynamic, but it's all year. You know, hurting people hurt people all year. And so that those of us are ready to serve all year, in season, out of season.
When I think about your being the family man that you are, how do you manage to separate or deal with this being such an important aspect of who you are from the heart, from God giving you the mission, and yet can be the family man you need to be?
Yes. I always say boundaries and using, I pray and I can't recall who it was who said it, but it was somebody said, pray for creative ideals that prosper. And so I think in terms of, as I'm praying for creative ideals that prosper, to have balance and boundaries to where you can pull away and be with your family. But at the same time, the creativity comes from, you don't have to necessarily have me to have access to a video, access to a book, access to some insights or something I post on a particular social media platform. And so that can be, in a sense, a substitute to where you can see, like on the website, anger management tips, underlying reasons for anger, 8 types of dads, and how dads fatherlessness is one of the greatest under the radar things that contributes to our crime and violence and a lot of social issues. When that positive man is not there, usually it has an escalation of all the other social issues in a negative way: crime, violence, dropouts, etc. And thank God for women too. I'll say that.
Say that again, please.
Thank God for the women. I wanted to balance it out. The man, the father, is a great integral piece, but many times that positive woman, that positive aunt, mother, etc., they are wore out because they're doing it in a very unbalanced way by themselves. And I just try to get the men and again encourage them to be able to join in. And when the man joins in and data backs it up, crime drops, violence drops, graduation rates soar, poverty decreases, income increases. And that is just, anybody who wants to fact check me on that, when the man is involved, you'll see even more research that backs up when a positive man is involved, the whole community changes for the better.
That is so very crucial. That's not just important, that is absolutely crucial. How far have your travels taken you?
Well, the furthest place, I would say virtually, and that was in the pandemic, I presented in the great state of California. That was virtually. Right now, I'll just say I'm kind of like regional, and I do other stuff outside of the Kansas City area more on a virtual basis right now. And so that's been a blessing for me. We have a lot of work to do in the Midwest. And then nationwide, my books go all over the place.
Yeah.
So that is another way that I can kind of help some people in that capacity. But in terms of traveling and literally just going in person, I don't do that as much right now, but I know God is opening up that door. That's where I'm at right now. Yes.
Believe me, as a matter of fact, the exposure that you get will absolutely lend to all kinds of invitations, particularly in as much as we are getting a little more movement out of the slowing pandemic. Obviously, we have to be very careful about that, however, because one of the reasons that there is that slowdown in the pandemic is because we're doing what we are supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So relaxing it too much, we might get a surge, but I'm sure you'll be traveling quite a bit. And in your data, when you mentioned St. Louis, Springfield, Kansas City, and as we collect data by zip codes, as a Black male American, mm-hmm. do you have a particular message? We are not singularly guilty, but unfortunately headlines feature us too much. Mm-hmm. Do you have a particular message for Black men?
I'll say my particular message for Black men, it goes to the Black boys as well, is to make sure more than anything else that we begin to validate our boys, to accept our boys, to interact with our boys, to let them see us have anger management, stress management, emotional management, to let us see us treating the women in our lives well, to let them see us actually be transparent enough to say, Daddy needs help, Uncle needs help, and this is how I'm doing it without fighting, without shooting. And so the message I would send to the males is just to be that model, and then join forces with other males, collaborate with other males.
This is so wonderful. I want to say delightful, but I don't want to trivialize it.
Mm-hmm.
The importance of being, the importance of exemplifying, the importance of coming together, Brother Anthony J. Butler, is immeasurable. Because once again, you have the audacity to talk about prevention.
Yes.
And too often that doesn't hit the headlines in the way that it needs to, because we're too busy paying attention to that breaking news that says something that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
When Anthony J. Butler is preventing many of those headlines, and we cannot appreciate it because obviously we don't see it.
Right, right. It just goes to the point in a natural way. You just think in terms of, you're just going to get you a sandwich, or you or Mr. Walker going to grab a quick bite to eat, and there's a little child about to fall into a hole that had the sewer cover off or something. And you just go over there and say, hey, don't go this way. And the child goes around.
Yes.
Will never make the news. But you save that child from being severely injured or falling to their death. And so that is the satisfaction I get. God knows, and I know. And sometimes we don't know until, like you said earlier, Mr. Boyd, people come back years later and share stuff, and you did not know that what you did stopped them from doing something horrific.
Absolutely. Are you familiar with Otis Moss III?
It sounds familiar, but not too much.
Okay. When I had the privilege of working with Operation Push in Chicago in the 1970s, Otis Moss Jr. was one of the members of the Push Ministerial Alliance.
Okay.
That's how I met Reverend Wallace Hartsfield Sr. and Reverend Nelson Fuzzy Thompson, all of those. Okay. Jeremiah Wright started Trinity United Church of Christ on the south side of Chicago.
Okay.
And Otis Moss III, that's Otis Moss Jr.'s son, was pastoring Trinity when he wrote the list 10 rules for Black youth when stopped by the police.
Okay.
And what I was hearing you say was consistent with that idea of be compliant. If you have a complaint, you can wait and do it right, or have an advocate. You don't have to argue with the police officer. Your hands can be visible at all times. Those things are so important.
Yes, sir.
And yesterday, Friday, April 22nd, or a month ago, March 17th, somebody was behind the wheel of a car and said, yes, sir, to a police officer and drove off without a confrontation. And it did not make breaking news.
There you go. There you go.
But this person's very life might have been saved because he was at an Anthony J. Butler Violence I Prevent presentation. What a blessing.
Yes, yes.
Now, I'm selfish.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear you do a rendition again, but what I want to make sure of is that I give you an opportunity for the final word before we sign off. And before I do that, let me ask Louis George Walker any questions, any comments, anything from Anthony J. Butler. And then I'll tell you what I meant when I said I'm selfish.
No, I do appreciate his work, the ministry that he's in, the talking to the young people. That is important for all of us in the community to do. As you were just saying, every man has that responsibility. Every man and woman has that responsibility to talk to our youth, and I applaud you for the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
And now, when I said I'm selfish, I await the words of conclusion from Anthony J. Butler, where this guest appearance is concerned. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cannot thank you enough. And or what you would want to say to particular viewers and listeners, or in general. Please, Anthony J. Butler, give us your final remarks.
I'll say this in terms of to the general audience, no matter what age, stage of life, when we have a numb heart, desensitized heart, it opens up the door to violence, community violence, domestic violence, gang violence, school violence. And so when you think in terms of that heart, that 10-ounce organ on the left side of our chest, 8 to 10 ounces, desensitized heart. And sometimes we got to arrest ourselves. And I'll say this to people in general, pray and ask God to show you what is going on inside of me, that if I don't get it together, because many times I'm so numb, I don't notice. You are under arrest. Charged, tried, and convicted of desensitizing that 10-ounce organ on the left side of your chest. So just start putting ourselves in a position to say, I'm convicted, arrest me. And I need to make sure that I can feel. And when I feel in my heart, I have empathy for every single person and treat my neighbor as I would like to, treat myself, so to speak. I love my neighbor like I love myself, anyone outside of me, because my heart is moldable and pliable and open, and that will automatically cause me not to be violent.
Ooh, thank you so very, very much. Anthony J. Butler, Violence I Prevent.
Yes, sir.
And Brother Walker can identify with why I say this is our most important program as it relates to emphasizing prevention rather than reaction. And rather than calling a news conference, just call some young people positive.
Yes.
And getting that from Anthony J. Butler is so extremely important. We thank you, cannot thank you enough. And once again, contact information for all who are with us.
violenceIprevent.com is the website, and the email is violenceIprevent@gmail.com. So violenceIprevent.com, the website. You click on the website, the email is there. The email is violenceIprevent@gmail.com.
Brother Anthony J. Butler, I cannot thank you enough. You have given us a full hour's program of your presentation. I wouldn't be able to measure properly what that would cost as it relates to your presentation, but it almost does not matter because it could not be enough. We appreciate what you're doing, who you are. We pray for you and your family. Please, please keep on keeping on preventing. God bless you.
Thank you. Bless you too. Thank you both.
You are more than welcome. This is Wave Your Grades, dedicated to those who have served, those who serve, and offering to our veterans positive examples of why it is that you are respected for your service. Cannot think of a better way than to have a gentleman who works with young people to make sure that you are not serving in vain, because he is keeping them out of harm's way and creating a society to which you can return peacefully. That is important to us. Our most important program today, to date, Anthony J. Butler, Louis George Walker. Oh, wait a minute. I have today's word. Brother Anthony J. Butler, I have a word for every day for students. To students across the USA, your Stoots for Boots message for this day, April 23rd. You can look forward to living a long life. They look forward to making sure you can look forward. This is Wave Your Grades. My name is Carl Boyd. Gracious God and wonderful. I'm on my way home.